So I got cut off there. But anyway, so what I was saying is we want to change our languaging for ourselves. And as we move into this ministerial path, that is our purpose, to show others how to express their divine self and to understand their divine wholeness and all the aspects of that God that is always, always one with us and always good. And so we want to be in that space. I need to click off that. So that's what the importance is of at least trying to focus in changing our language. Not that maybe it can't happen overnight, but every time that we work through it, we become more and more of the expression of God here on earth. So today we are going to be talking this week on how to pray without talking to God. And I have a question, and I'll put it in the discussion thread. But how many of you have already covered this book, How to Pray Without Talking to God? One of the things I've found, I've covered it numerous times, and each time it brings on a different aspect of our spiritual growth. And so that's exciting. Okay. So in chapter 2, on page 25, it says, let me move this over a little. We pray asserting our divine identity so we may express our divine identity. We pray asserting our divine identity so we may express our divine identity. We pray so that we embody divine nature. Powerful words. Because the more and more we embody our divine nature, that's what makes heaven on earth, isn't it? Yes. And as being ministers, it allows us to embody our divine nature more and more because we become mirrors for others to embody theirs. This is also what makes us unity, that we have this divine nature and that it is always one with Source, always one with Source. God. We are always one with God. We are not separate. And the more we get that in a feeling state, the more we become expressions of that divine. Whenever we pray to a God outside ourselves, it makes it just more difficult to acknowledge. When we're praying to something outside ourselves, it takes away from our own divine powers, our own divine wholeness and healing. And again, it's difficult because this is the way we've grown up to pray. This is throughout what we have learned through many expressions of other religious theologies. And it's still something that is taught, that we are to honor this outside deity, that we are so to be thankful. We're supposed to have faith that this outside deity will answer our prayers. Whereas we acknowledge it is always, we are always whole. We live in an abundant universe. We are an expression of all of that once we set our consciousness to knowing at a conscious and even more importantly subconscious level. And so you you and I are that divine. You and I are that divine. On page 29, it talks about why do we pray? Why do we pray? Do we pray for healing? Do we pray for financial abundance? Do we pray for relationship problems to go away? We pray to make God, the invisible, visible through our expression. And when we make God visible, then we live in a world. We live in a world of health and wholeness and abundance, and we live in a world of divine knowledge. So once we make God, that is us, visible, that is how we change our prayer life. On page 34, it also states, we pray for one reason and one reason only. All reasons for prayer can be distilled down to one. We pray to claim and assert our divine identity so that we can live more fully from it. We pray so that we may embody divine nature. And as we pray, embodying divine nature, we live in a world of truth of wholeness, health, abundance. We live in a world of love. On page 36, pray from a consciousness of God. That's the title part of that. And so the text reads there, to pray from a consciousness of God is to acknowledge divine nature so that we may assume that nature, identify ourselves as divine. That is what we're doing in prayer. We're realizing our divine nature and allowing it to express itself. On page 43, Linda Martel-Witzlet gives examples of how she prays, and let me look at that real quick. So today she says, today when I feel overwhelmed, I pray so that divine wisdom rules my consciousness. I love this. When I sense my son and daughter in emotional pain, the kind of pain that can't be relieved with bandages and a kiss, I pray so that my mommy brain will not automatically conjure horrible possibilities. I pray so that I remember the truth of their divine identity, calling to mind the times I saw them rise higher than their circumstances. Wow. Because how often is it hard not to get into that place when we're worried about someone else? Right. When I receive news of a beloved friend or relative being hospitalized, I pray so that I remain faithful in my thoughts about that person. I pray so that instead of worrying about outcomes or imagining pain and fear, I hold to and speak of her divine life, the light of the world she is, the capacity of divine love that heals all. By my highest thoughts and in the truth of oneness, I claim strength to thrive for her. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that brings us to a different level of prayer. And I truly have a different understanding of those lines now than I did when I read them maybe 6 months or a year ago. And so this week, I would like you to read chapter 2 and put it into the perspective of why should I change my language when I refer to God? Why should I use language that doesn't put God as outside of me, separate from who I am? What are the benefits to you to referring to God in that oneness as the divine that you are? How does traditional prayer differ from this book's way of prayer? How to pray without talking to God. So I hope that you will this week and forthcoming strive to refer to God, the God that lives and breathes in you, as you, and around you. For me, I still feel comfortable in saying that, and maybe I will be able to move away from in you and only as you. Maybe I should try that right now. The God that is as you, that is as me. Each time, though, that I work more and more on working in my languaging and striving to and focusing, I allow myself to understand the divine that I am. Okay? So just take a moment and be open to the possibilities of changing your languaging, referring to God. This week, hopefully tomorrow, I'll be posting what to read in Regarding a World That Works for All. I have been struggling a little bit with that, I'll be honest. It's from the previous curriculum, and I want to honor Dr. Thomas. And I'm trying, though, to work at where you don't have quite so much reading also. And so I need a little more time to play with that. And then also this week, I would like you to find time to do a 2 to 4 hour silent meditation prayer and reflection retreat. Okay, and this was, in the old curriculum, it was a full day. And I know sometimes our lives might be a little bit busy, and with children and families and work, it might be hard to find a full day. And so I would like you maybe just to find 2 to 4 hours, okay? If you could find a religious center, maybe a labyrinth, a piece of nature that you can get off to yourself. Don't take a journal, don't take anything, if you possibly can, don't take your phone. Just have it a time to be in the silence with yourself and the God that is you. And then, so that's what we're going to do this week. I hope that it's a little bit shorter, but you may have a little bit more reading to do. So you'll find out tomorrow. I just want to say I honor each one of you that you're on this path. I appreciate each one of you. I am joyful to be your instructor, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Blessings and namaste.